This was the kind of retirement home people often dreamed about. Immaculate lawns, rocking chairs lining the porch, nurses with soothing voices and gentle touch. Families called it a blessing. Residents called it peace. But peace is a fragile thing, easy to pretend, difficult to truly keep. So when a therapy dog named German Shepherd suddenly stopped in his tracks and let out a deep, bone-rattling growl at the end of a quiet corridor, the calm facade cracked just a little. German Shepherd wasn't just any dog. He was a retired K-9 officer, 6 years on the force, over 50 busts, a hero more times than anyone could count. Now with gray around his muzzle and a slight stiffness in his hips, German Shepherd spent his days bringing comfort to the elderly at Rose Hill Retirement Home. He was calm, gentle, and predictable until that Tuesday afternoon. The day began like any other. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of room 208, where Miss Dorothy softly hummed old jazz tunes to herself. Nurses wheeled carts down the hallways. The air carried a faint scent of oatmeal and lemon disinfectant. And German Shepherd, loyal as ever, padded alongside Emily, a 26-year-old nurse fresh from a challenging internship, still learning the rhythm of this peaceful place. "Come on, buddy," Emily said, gently tugging his leash as they passed the West Wing, an older section of the building rarely used these days. That's when German Shepherd stopped. Not just to pause. He froze, hackles raised, body tense, eyes fixed on a door at the far end of the hall. Room 316. The door was old and heavy, unlike the others. A dusty plaque hung crooked on the frame, but the name had been scratched off. German Shepherd let out a low growl that twisted Emily's stomach. "Hey, what's wrong?" she whispered, crouching beside him. He didn't respond, not even a wag of his tail. His nose twitched, tracking something invisible to Emily. Then he barked once, loud, sharp, urgent. A nurse poked her head out of a nearby room, annoyed. "Everything okay down there?" Yeah, sorry," Emily replied quickly. "Just German Shepherd acting strange." The nurse frowned. "Don't hang around that door. It's sealed for a reason." Emily nodded, tugged German Shepherd's leash and moved on, but German Shepherd kept glancing back. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She tried to brush it off. Dogs bark, old buildings creak. Maybe a mouse, a smell, something harmless. But German Shepherd's soldier-like stance kept replaying in her mind. She worked the overnight shift again on Thursday. German Shepherd seemed restless from the moment they arrived. Usually he greeted patients one by one, offering his head for a scratch or gently nudging a hand with his snout. But not tonight. He kept pulling toward the West Wing. Emily didn't want to admit it, but part of her was curious. Room 318 wasn't on any floor plans. She'd checked, and when she asked Mrs. Langley, the night supervisor, the older woman replied firmly, "Don't worry about it. Some rooms are just too far gone." Too far gone? What does that even mean? By 1:30 a.m., the halls were silent. The only sounds were the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional beep of a heart monitor from the medical wing. Emily took one last walk before bed, and again German Shepherd pulled her toward that same door. Only this time he wouldn't stop barking. 3 short bursts. A pause. One long howl. Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "Stop it, German Shepherd," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "You're going to wake everyone." But German Shepherd didn't stop. That's when she noticed it. A faint light seeping from the crack beneath the door. Her heart skipped a beat. No patients were assigned to that wing. No nurses posted past room 310. Yet there was light, faint, flickering like a lamp left on or a TV tuned to static. She reached for the handle. Locked, of course. She bent down and peered through the old keyhole, half expecting to see nothing. But what she saw made her stumble back. A shadow moved slowly across the room, dragging something behind it. The shape was vaguely human but hunched over, slouched, like something broken that never fully healed. German Shepherd snarled, teeth bared. Something was in that room. Emily didn't mention anything the next morning. Not yet. She needed to make sense of what she had seen. What exactly had German Shepherd sensed? Quietly and casually she began asking questions. "Do we ever use the West Wing for storage or anything like that?" Mrs. Langley's expression tightened. "Best to stick to your assigned areas, dear." "I thought I saw a light on in one of those rooms," Emily said cautiously. The older nurse smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Old wiring. Nothing to worry about." Emily nodded but started taking notes. Then she reviewed the patient records. Every room in the West Wing, from 311 to 320, was listed as either vacant or under renovation. But when she dug deeper into the facility's electronic logs, she found something odd. 3 separate medication deliveries had been made, all addressed to rooms in that wing. Yet, there were no patients, no entries, no ID numbers, no intake files, just blank spots in the system. Someone or something was occupying that hallway. The following Tuesday, Emily arrived early. German Shepherd was already waiting by the door, pacing nervously. This time, she brought a flashlight and a voice recorder tucked into her scrubs. She didn't care if it cost her the job. Around 2 a.m., she returned. The hallway was silent. Moonlight barely illuminated the dust particles floating in the air. German Shepherd walked slowly beside her, head low, ears twitching. The light was on again. This time, Emily tried something different. She crouched beside the door and whispered, "Hello?"
Is someone in there?
No response, but the light flickered once more and German Shepherd stiffened. Then came a sound, not a voice, not footsteps, but shallow, raspy breathing, close by. Emily's heart pounded. She backed away slowly, with German Shepherd positioning himself protectively in front of her. Then the breathing stopped. Just like that, silence returned. She turned and walked away, forcing herself to appear calm, though every hair on her arm stood on end. The next morning, Emily went to the facility's director, Mr. Chambers. He was a tall man with silver hair and an air of corporate calm, the kind of calm that made everything seem unimportant, even when it wasn't. She told him everything: the barking, the movement, the flickering light, the missing patient records. He listened, smiled, and said, "You've been working a lot of night shifts. Emily, sometimes the mind plays tricks." "I saw someone," she insisted. "And German Shepherd, it's an old building," he interrupted, "full of drafts and electrical glitches. We appreciate your concern, but there's nothing to worry about." Emily left the office more frustrated than ever. But German Shepherd wasn't finished. Later that day, as a maintenance worker passed by with a tool cart, German Shepherd lunged, not to attack, but to grab something. Emily ran over just in time to see German Shepherd pulling a set of keys off the man's belt. As she picked them up, she noticed one key had a small, rusted label. Emily didn't sleep after her shift ended. She sat in her car for nearly an hour, clutching the keys German Shepherd had taken like a lifeline. Her mind raced. Why would maintenance carry a key to a room that was supposed to be sealed off? And why was it missing from the records, yet marked on this key with a faint, rusted tag that read 316? She glanced over at German Shepherd, curled up on the passenger seat, softly snoring. Even at rest, his ears twitched at every sound. She couldn't explain it, but the more time she spent with German Shepherd, the more she trusted his instincts over any human she worked with. By the time her next night shift began, she had made up her mind. She was going back in. The hallway leading to the West Wing was silent. The kind of silence that wasn't peaceful. It felt unnatural, as if sound itself refused to enter. Emily felt a chill run through her bones the moment she crossed the threshold. German Shepherd walked beside her again, unusually alert, each step careful and deliberate. She gripped the ring of keys tightly, using her flashlight sparingly to avoid drawing attention. Most of the staff were either off duty or asleep. It was now or never. When they reached room 316, German Shepherd stopped and sat down. Not tense, not aggressive, just waiting, as if he knew this moment had to come. Emily took a deep breath, selected the key, and slowly turned it in the lock. Click. The door gave a soft creak as it opened. The smell hit her first. Stale, like old sweat mixed with cleaning chemicals that hadn't masked the decay. Her flashlight trembled in her hand as she stepped inside. The room was bigger than she'd expected. It wasn't a patient room. Not really. The wallpaper was peeling away from the walls. The floorboards creaked underfoot. But what caught Emily's attention most was that the room looked lived in. 2 narrow hospital beds stood side by side, both neatly made, though one had a deep indentation as if someone had been resting there for hours. An old IV stand leaned against the wall. A TV mounted high in the corner flickered with static. And on the far side, a man sat motionless in a wheelchair, facing the wall. Emily's breath hitched. "Sir?" she said softly. No response. She edged forward, heart racing. German Shepherd growled low, staying close to the door behind her. She took another step. The man stirred. He didn't turn around, but slowly raised one trembling hand and pointed toward the nightstand beside him. Blinking, Emily carefully approached and opened the drawer. Inside lay a small leather-bound notebook. No name on the cover, just worn edges and cracked binding. The man finally spoke, his voice dry and weak, as if unused for days. "He thinks no one remembers us." Emily looked at him. His face was gaunt, eyes sunken. He appeared to be in his 80s or 90s, but there was a sharpness in his gaze, something alive. "Who are you?" she asked. His lips barely moved. "You already know." She didn't, but the way he said it sent a chill down her spine. Flipping open the notebook, the first page read, "They were supposed to be dead." Emily didn't take the notebook immediately. She closed it, placed it back where she found it, and backed out slowly. Her instincts screamed she had stayed too long. As the door clicked shut behind her, German Shepherd stood and pressed his body protectively against her legs, grounding her. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Instead, she scoured every database she could access. Health records, old employment lists, even news archives. Nothing appeared under room 316, or the name scribbled inside the notebook's back cover, Gerald H. Brooks. No records, no emergency contacts, no patient ID, no billing history. It was as if the man in that room didn't exist. The next day, she asked a different nurse, one who had only been there a few months. "Oh, that room," the nurse said. "They say some ex-veteran stays there when his family visits from out of town. But I've never seen him." "Ex-vet?" Emily asked. "Yeah. Or maybe a priest, I don't know. The stories don't add up." Emily stopped asking after that. Every answer was a new lie. That weekend, she met an old friend, Caleb, who worked in healthcare compliance. She didn't tell him everything, just enough. "Could a nursing home have unregistered patients?" she asked over coffee. He raised an eyebrow. "If they're hiding patients, that's a serious crime. Fraud, abuse, illegal confinement." "Why?" Emily hesitated. "Let's say someone finds a patient with no records, no billing files, no social security or ID. What would happen?" He leaned in. "You'd report it to the state immediately." She nodded but didn't do it. Not yet. Because something about the way Gerald had pointed to that notebook made her feel there was more. Something darker, deeper than just fraud. She had to find out what they were hiding. On Sunday night, Emily returned to room 316. The key slid into the lock more easily this time, as if the door was waiting for her. Gerald sat in the same spot. He didn't turn when she entered, but spoke. "You came back." "I read a little," she said, holding up the notebook. "It's hard to believe." "Then don't believe." He pointed again, this time toward a curtain at the far side of the room. Behind it, Emily found a second door, metal, heavy, like something from a hospital basement or military facility. A biometric scanner was mounted beside it, not a keycard reader but a scanner. "What is this?" she whispered. Gerald chuckled dryly. "That's where the others are." Emily stared at the scanner. "No one else ever comes in here," she said quietly. "They can't," he replied. "They don't have the key." He nodded toward German Shepherd. Emily blinked. German Shepherd, not the dog, the name. It had once been a code before the program was shut down. "What program?" Gerald turned his chair slightly to face her. "The program they buried. Just like us." Emily took a step back, heart pounding. What were they doing here? Gerald's eyes locked onto hers. "Trying to forget what we did." Emily left that night with the notebook in hand. Inside were names and dates. Some were just numbers. Others had red ink slashed across them. One entry stood out, July 17th, 2009. Subject 13A, terminated. Beneath it, written in shaky, looping handwriting, not terminated. Moved. Room 317. Her eyes widened. Room 317 was right next to Gerald's. Officially, it was listed as empty. But that metal door, the scanner, she wasn't just dealing with unlisted patients. There were hidden rooms. The next morning, Emily arrived early. She made coffee, smiled at the other nurses, played along. But all the while, she was watching. At 10:45 a.m., a man in a brown suit arrived. No badge, no stethoscope. He didn't check in. Emily watched him walk quietly toward the west wing and disappear into room 317. 10 minutes later, he emerged carrying a silver briefcase. Emily caught sight of the side of his neck, a small scar, like something had been implanted and later removed. He didn't look like a doctor, more like someone who erased things. German Shepherd growled from across the hall. This time, Emily didn't stop him. She couldn't get the man in the brown suit out of her mind. No ID badge, no clipboard, no words exchanged, just in and out, smooth, quiet, practiced, carrying that silver briefcase. It didn't belong in a retirement home. It belonged in some government facility or a thriller where people vanish and no one asks questions. German Shepherd hadn't taken his eyes off that hallway all day. He refused to eat or lie down. He just stood like a statue, eyes locked on room 317. That night, Emily made a choice she never thought she would. She clocked out but didn't leave. Instead, she hid behind the storage shelves in the laundry room, the only spot without security cameras. She could hear the hum of machines and the occasional squeak of a rolling cart. Night staff moved about quietly. Midnight passed. Then she heard it. Footsteps, soft, even. Not a nurse. Not those shoes. Peering through the crack in the door, she saw him again. The man in the brown suit walking down the west wing. Same routine, briefcase in hand. He tapped something on his wrist, a dark band, maybe a biometric device, and entered room 317 without a sound. Emily counted the minutes. 5, 10, 15. At 20 minutes, the door opened again. The man stepped out, empty-handed, and disappeared. Emily waited another 10 minutes before moving. Room 317 was different from 316. Cleaner, colder. The overhead light was harsh, sterile white. There was only one bed, one chair, and strapped to the bed with thick leather cuffs at her wrists and ankles was a woman. Pale skin, shaved head, thin, frighteningly so, but alive. She stared straight at the ceiling, unblinking, unresponsive. Emily rushed to her side. "Hey, can you hear me?" The woman's mouth twitched slightly. It was something. "I'm Emily," she whispered, glancing toward the door. "I'm a nurse here. What's your name?" A pause. Then the woman whispered so softly Emily had to lean in close to hear, "Subject 13. Emily's heart stopped. That was the name in the notebook. Subject 13A, terminated. But this woman was right here, alive. Emily reached for the restraints. German Shepherd barked once, sharp and low. Footsteps. Someone was coming. Emily froze, hands hovering over the leather straps. Then she slipped backward into the small supply closet in the corner, barely wide enough for her and German Shepherd. She switched off her flashlight and held her breath. The door opened. 2 people entered, not the man in the brown suit this time. These were orderlies, faceless, expressionless, moving like robots. They didn't speak. One adjusted the IV line. The other checked the monitor. "She's stable," one muttered quietly. "No more than 48 hours, the other said. They nodded to each other. "Let her rest." Then they left. Emily waited 5 minutes, then 10. When she was sure they were gone, she emerged and rushed to the bed. "Hang in there," she whispered. "I'm coming back for you." That morning she called Caleb. "All right," he said, voice tense. "Let's say you found a hidden patient. You're sure she's not listed anywhere?" "She's not," Emily replied. "No chart. There's a metal door connecting from 316, something underground." Caleb was silent for a moment. "Then you need to leave." "I can't." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "Emily, this sounds bigger than elder care fraud. You're talking illegal detention, maybe even experimentation. If you get caught, I can't help you." Emily's voice was steady. She didn't tell him about the notebook. She didn't say she'd taken it with her that night. That evening, she stayed late again. Openly this time. Said she was picking up an extra shift? The staff had grown used to her. No one questioned it. But as she passed the nurse's station, she overheard something that made her blood run cold. "They're moving her tonight," Mrs. Langley said to another nurse. "Corporate orders. To where?" "Doesn't say." Emily kept walking, but she knew what it meant. They were getting rid of Subject 13. Whether that meant moving her or silencing her forever, Emily didn't care. She had to act. She waited until just after 2 a.m. German Shepherd was ready, waiting by the west wing door, like he understood everything. She used the stolen key to enter room 316, then slipped through the metal door Gerald had shown her. This time, she brought a portable scanner borrowed from the front desk. To her shock, it worked. The scanner blinked green. Access granted. The door to 317 clicked open from the inside. The woman was still there. This time her eyes followed Emily as she entered. "You came back?" she whispered. "I'm getting you out of here." Emily carefully unfastened the straps. The woman didn't resist. She moved slowly as if she hadn't walked in weeks. German Shepherd stayed alert but didn't bark, remaining close as they quietly made their way toward the hallway. Then the alarms blared, not fire alarms, but security. Red lights flashed along the ceiling, and a low siren echoed through the corridors. They ran. Emily supported the woman as best she could. German Shepherd barked twice, a sharp warning, then darted ahead to scout. When they reached the emergency stairwell, relief flooded Emily, until the door refused to budge. Locked, of course. German Shepherd growled and rushed to the elevator doors, which were already sliding open. 2 men in black uniforms stepped out, tasers drawn. "Don't move!" one barked. German Shepherd lunged, not to attack, but to grab one man's arm and yank hard, throwing him off balance. The other raised his taser, but German Shepherd turned on him, growling fiercely, eyes locked. The distraction was enough. Emily yanked the fire alarm. Sprinklers erupted throughout the building. Screams and chaos filled the air. The elevator jammed. Lights flickered. They had seconds. Emily dragged the woman back down the hall. Then, suddenly, a miracle. Gerald appeared at the end of the corridor, waving frantically toward a side exit Emily hadn't noticed before. "This way," he shouted. They burst through the door into the cold night. Gerald slammed it shut behind them. German Shepherd lingered a moment longer, growling and guarding, then bolted after them. They didn't stop running until they reached Emily's car 2 blocks away. She drove in silence for 15 minutes, her heart pounding. The woman sat quietly in the back seat, eyes closed, leaning against German Shepherd. Gerald sat calmly in the front. "You knew," Emily finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This whole time?" "I knew they'd come for her eventually," he replied. "She wasn't supposed to survive. What is she?" Gerald turned slowly to look at Emily with a gaze only someone who's seen too much can give. "She's proof," he said. "Proof they were doing more than just caring for the elderly. She's the last one." "Last what?" He didn't answer. That morning, Emily called Caleb again. "I have someone who needs protection," she said. "Emily, what the hell did you do?" he asked, voice tense. "I saved a life." Caleb came through, arranging a meeting with a private investigator connected to a whistleblower protection group. The woman, Subject 13, was taken to a safe location. No one knew her real name yet. She barely spoke, but was safe. Gerald disappeared not long after. German Shepherd never left Emily's side again, and every so often, late at night, Emily would wake to find him standing by the window, staring out into the darkness as if he still sensed something out there, something unfinished. It had been 8 days since. Emily pulled Subject 13, now simply called Anna, out of room 317. 8 days of hiding, 8 days of waiting for something, anything, to happen. But no news came. No police, no investigation, no reporters at the gate. Nothing. The facility remained open, business as usual. As if none of it had ever happened, Emily sat in her small living room, scrolling through news feeds on her phone while German Shepherd lay curled at her feet. One eye half open, ears twitching at every distant sound, Anna slept in the spare bedroom. She hadn't spoken more than a few full sentences since arriving. She ate in silence, slept in short bursts, flinched at loud noises. But the strangest thing, she never cried, not even when the nightmares came. Emily finally broke the silence by calling Caleb again. "I don't understand," she said, pacing just outside the bedroom. "We rescued someone who wasn't even supposed to exist. Shouldn't the state be crawling all over that place by now?" "Are you assuming anyone wants to investigate?" Caleb replied. "Places like Rose Hill are built with layers of insulation, legal, financial, political. You pull one thread and the whole thing unravels. No one wants that. So we pretend nothing happened. You did the right thing, Emily. But if you want real justice, you might have to dig deeper." There was a pause. "Look, I know a guy. Used to work in federal oversight. Now he's freelance. Not cheap, but quiet, discreet, and thorough," Emily sighed. "Give me his name." 2 nights later, she met the investigator. He was a wiry man in his late 50s with a voice like gravel and bourbon. He wore a battered bomber jacket and a wedding ring that looked like it hadn't been removed since the Reagan era. "Name's Maddox," he said, sliding into the booth at a diner just off the I-5. "You're Emily?" She nodded, sliding the notebook across the table. Maddox didn't open it right away. He just stared at the cover like it might bite him. "Where did you get this?" Maddox asked, eyeing the notebook. "Room 316 at Rose Hill," Emily replied. That made him look up sharply, his eyes narrowing. "You sure about that?" "I was there." He flipped through the pages carefully, line by line, occasionally grunting or muttering a curse under his breath. When he finally closed it, he leaned back and said, "This isn't just elder care fraud. This is black ops stuff. Experimental programs hidden beneath medical budgets. If even half of this is true, someone went to great lengths to bury it. And now it's resurfacing." Emily lowered her voice. "There's a name in here. Dr. Ellis Quaid. Does that ring any bells?" She shook her head. "Used to work for the Department of Defense, Biobehavioral Division. Vanished from public records in 2012, my guess? He went private and took his research with him." Emily's stomach churned. "What kind of research?" Maddox gave her a look. The kind people give before delivering bad news. Reprogramming trauma, memory erasure, emotional conditioning. Human test subjects, most forgotten by their families. "Easy targets." Emily leaned in. "What do we do?" "We follow the money." The first break came 2 days later. Maddox called her at 4:17 a.m. "Get dressed. Meet me at the records archive. Bring German Shepherd." She did as instructed. They met in the parking lot of a state-run facility that looked like a cross between a DMV and a warehouse. Inside, Maddox flashed a badge she suspected was fake, but good enough to get them in. They sifted through boxes of old files, the kind not yet digitized. Most were mundane: meal plans, budget approvals, staff shift logs from years ago. Then Maddox found it, a transfer order dated February 13th, 2011. 5 patients relocated from Facility 8B, now Rose Hill's West Wing, to an unknown holding unit. Clearance level redacted. All names blacked out except one, Anna L. "She's been there that long?" Emily whispered. Maddox nodded. "Long enough for everyone to forget she was alive." He kept flipping until he stopped on a photocopied ID badge. Ellis Quaid, consultant, Rose Hill. Special projects. There was an address scribbled on the back in pencil. "Looks like we're going for a drive," Maddox muttered. They traced Quaid's name to a shell company registered in Delaware, funneling consulting fees to an office in Santa Rosa. When they arrived, the building was gutted. Stripped walls, torn carpet, empty file cabinets. Whoever had been there left in a hurry. But German Shepherd wasn't convinced. He circled the far end of the room, sniffing along the baseboards, then barked. Emily rushed over and found a narrow vent cover slightly ajar. Inside, wedged between old insulation and a dead mouse, was a sealed manila folder. Inside were photographs of Anna hooked up to machines, monitored closely, pages of biometric charts, brain scans, and chemical trial logs. One memo caught Emily's eye. Subject 13 has shown rare memory resistance. Recommend indefinite confinement to prevent breach. She stared at the sentence, hands trembling. She was the only one who remembered. Maddox nodded grimly. That's why they buried her. That night, back at home, Emily showed Anna the photos. The woman didn't speak for a long time. She just stared at the pages, flipping slowly. Finally, she said, "My name's not Anna." Emily blinked. "It's not. My name is June," she smiled faintly. "I remember now." In the days that followed, June began to change. She ate more, slept longer, spoke in full sentences. Bits of her past returned. Parents, school, a brother named Tyler who used to read comic books aloud at bedtime. She remembered being taken, the needles, the isolation. But most of all, she remembered a voice. "You're not real. June. You're what we made." She woke screaming the first time she said it aloud. German Shepherd was always there, jumping onto the bed, pressing his body against her like a weighted shield. And it worked. She always calmed down. Maddox disappeared not long after delivering the last of the files to a trusted contact in the press. The files never made it to print. Instead, Rose Hill quietly changed ownership. The website went offline, and room 316 was sealed. For real this time. Emily stayed in touch with June, who moved to a protected residence out of state under a new identity. German Shepherd stayed by Emily's side, older now, moving slower but still watchful. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Emily looked down at him and said, "You knew before anyone else. You saw what none of us wanted to face." He let out a soft whine, his tail thumping once. She smiled gently. Heroes come in all shapes, don't they? German Shepherd was definitely slowing down. He still followed Emily from room to room like the loyal shadow he'd always been. But his steps were more measured now. Sometimes when he lay down, he'd let out a soft grunt, as if it took more effort than before. Emily noticed it most in the mornings. He used to greet the day by racing to the door at the first chirp of birds. Now he lingered on his bed a little longer, lifting his head first, then his body. He had earned the rest. But something in his eyes told Emily he wasn't finished yet, not while the silence lingered. Not while Rose Hill still stood. June, now living under federal protection, had begun documenting everything. She filled notebook after notebook with fragmented memories, names, faces, descriptions of endless white hallways, a woman with a green clipboard, a smell like bleach and copper. One name appeared more than any other: Ellis Quaid. Emily circled it every time it showed up. The government claimed Quaid had been missing for years. Dead, some said. Retired abroad, others whispered. But Emily didn't believe in ghosts, and German Shepherd hadn't stopped pacing at night. One quiet Saturday, Emily drove 2 hours south to visit Maddox. She hadn't seen him since he vanished after leaking the files. He'd gone off the grid, but Emily knew where to find him. An old RV park tucked behind a dry canyon road, the kind of place where no one asked for last names. He greeted her with a thermos of black coffee and the same gruff voice that somehow still sounded kind. "You're not done, are you?" he said, handing her the mug. Emily shook her head. "Neither is German Shepherd." He glanced down at the old dog curled at Emily's boots, but kept his eyes fixed on the dusty road behind them. Maddox lowered his voice. "I've been hearing whispers about something called Project Echo." Emily looked up sharply. "What is it?" "It's a behavioral reset program off the books, funded through back channels. Military, private contractors, pharma. They use places like Rose Hill as cover. Quiet patients already forgotten. Easy to test on. And Quaid?" she asked. Maddox sighed. "He was the architect." That night Emily sat on her porch. German Shepherd curled up beside her, watching the sky shift from orange to blue to black. She held June's latest notebook in her lap, flipping through pages filled with scribbled nightmares and broken memories. One passage stopped her cold. I was in the chair again, the humming sound in the wall. I remember Quaid saying, "If it works on her, it works on anyone." And then the lights went out for a long time. Emily closed the notebook. What if June wasn't the only one? What if Rose Hill still held more secrets? The next day, Emily returned to the retirement home, unofficially. She parked 3 blocks away, dressed in a delivery uniform borrowed from a friend, cap pulled low over her face, clipboard in hand, and a box labeled medical supplies in the trunk. German Shepherd waited in the passenger seat, watching the building like a sentinel. She timed it perfectly, mid-lunch when the front desk was least staffed. She walked in confidently like she belonged. No one stopped her. She made it halfway down the east wing before slipping into the old supply corridor that ran behind rooms 310 to 320. She knew exactly where to go. Room 319, never mentioned in any files, never lit from the outside, but always quiet. She pressed her ear to the wall and froze. There it was. The humming, faint, low, constant, like a machine running behind drywall. She pulled out her phone and recorded it. Just 30 seconds, enough proof that something was still active. Then she slipped away. Back home, German Shepherd sniffed her hands before she even spoke. "You were right," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "There's still something going on." She sent the recording to Maddox. He replied 5 minutes later with a single line. "That's not just electricity. That's frequency modulation." "Mindfield tech," Emily typed back. "What the hell is Mindfield?" Maddox called. "It's neural interference. The military tried it on PTSD patients in the early 2000s. Quaid developed a prototype, supposed to suppress traumatic memories. Didn't work. Too many side effects. Rage, dissociation, hallucinations. Are they still running it?" Emily asked. "They are, if they're desperate enough to keep the past buried," Maddox replied. Emily knew she couldn't face this alone anymore. She went to see Caleb. He met her at a diner halfway between their homes, nervously stirring his coffee before she even sat down. "You're going to get yourself killed," he said without greeting. "I'm not walking away," Emily said firmly. "You saw the files. You know what they did." Yeah, and I also know how many people buried this thing. Layers, Emily. Bureaucratic cement. You dig too deep, and it's your name they erase next. I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for help. Caleb sighed, rubbed his face, then leaned in. There's a hearing coming up, he whispered. Unrelated case, but one of the contractors tied to Quaid is being called to testify. If we get a subpoena on record, even just mentioning Rose Hill, it forces a paper trail. Emily's heart raced. How long? 10 days. 10 days felt like an eternity. Emily kept a low profile, but every night German Shepherd stood at the window, watching, waiting. Then, on day 6, it happened. Emily came home from the grocery store to find her front door cracked open. German Shepherd growled before they even crossed the porch. Inside, the place had been ransacked. Not like a robbery. No broken glass, no missing valuables, but the notebooks were gone. June's notebooks, all of them except one. The oldest, the one from room 316. It was left on the kitchen counter, opened to a single page. A black and white security camera still showed Emily and German Shepherd walking out of room 317. On the back of the photo, written in red ink, were the words, "You're being watched. Walk away." Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor beside German Shepherd's bed, one hand resting on his fur, the other gripping the page. "This is how they scare people," she whispered. "Make it quiet. Make it personal. Make you doubt what's worth saving." German Shepherd nuzzled her hand, and she knew. She wasn't backing down. 2 days later, Caleb called again. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Someone leaked the Rose Hill files to the Oversight Committee, Public Health Division." Emily's stomach dropped. "What?" "They're opening an inquiry. Quiet for now, but it's real. We've got traction." Her hands trembled. "Finally, they'll want a witness," he added. "Someone who saw it firsthand. Someone the public can connect to." Emily looked down at German Shepherd. "He never left my side," she said softly. "Then bring him too." The night before the hearing, Emily went out onto the porch again. The stars were out, the air crisp. German Shepherd curled beside her in his usual spot. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the old ID badge she'd found weeks ago. Ellis Quaid. She hadn't said his name out loud in days, but tonight she did. "I don't know where you are," she said, staring into the dark. "But I know you're still out there, watching, hiding." "Waiting," she paused. "And I'm not scared of you." German Shepherd let out a soft bark. As if in agreement, she smiled. "Tomorrow, we speak." The hearing was held in a modest government building just outside the state capitol. No flashing cameras, no crowds of reporters, just a slow trickle of officials, aides, and a handful of public attendees seated in rows of wooden chairs beneath buzzing fluorescent lights. Emily sat at the front, one hand resting on German Shepherd's back. He was calm, composed, wearing a soft gray vest embroidered with the words "Therapy Dog, Retired K9. He wasn't there for show. He was there as a witness, in the only way he could be. The room smelled of stale coffee and cheap paper, but to Emily it smelled like war. Just before noon they called her name. She stood, walked to the microphone, and sat upright, heart pounding. She had practiced this. She had read her statement a dozen times. But when she looked at the panel, 5 people in suits, one with tired eyes behind thick glasses, she didn't read from the page. She spoke from memory. "My name is Emily Hayes. I'm a registered nurse. I've worked at multiple care facilities across this state, but what I'm here to talk about, what happened at Rose Hill, was never about care. It was about control. And the people they hurt were the ones no one thought to ask about." She paused. Behind her, German Shepherd let out a soft exhale, a grounding presence. Emily continued. "I'm talking about a patient known as Subject 13, a woman named June. She was held without registration, without consent, and used in illegal experiments involving neurosuppression, all under the supervision of a man named Ellis Quaid, whose name and funding trail connect directly to private contractors with military ties." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One of the board members looked up sharply, but Emily didn't pause. "I found her. I got her out. And I'm here today because if I didn't speak, no one else would." She turned gently and placed her hand on German Shepherd's shoulder. "He's the real hero." German Shepherd lifted his head slightly, eyes sweeping the room. He's the reason I knew something was wrong. He was the one who refused to walk past that locked door. He saw what we didn't want to see. He never gave up, even when we did. He reminded me that truth doesn't whisper. Sometimes it howls. After her statement, the questions came fast. Where is June now? What evidence links Quaid directly to this? Why didn't you go to the police sooner? Some questions were fair, others sharp, and a few clearly meant to cast doubt. But Emily answered them all. She referenced Maddox's files, June's medical scans, the facility's medication logs, and the biometric scanner hidden behind room 316. She showed them the photo of her and German Shepherd leaving room 317. The very one left behind by whoever had ransacked her. Home. I was told to walk away, she said. Instead, I walked in. Then the unexpected happened. A man in a gray suit entered the room, flanked by two plainclothes officers. Emily's heart stopped. Ellis Quaid, older now, his hair white, skin thin and drawn, but his eyes still sharp and cold. The board chair leaned into the microphone. Dr. Quaid, you have been subpoenaed to appear under federal review. You may decline to answer, but we are authorized to continue proceedings in your absence. Quaid didn't speak at first. Then he looked directly at Emily. You have no idea what we were doing, he said, voice steady. You think we were monsters. You don't understand the world we were trying to protect. Emily met his gaze. You weren't protecting the world. You were hiding from it. Quaid shook his head, almost pitying. June was unstable. You have no idea what she was capable of. Emily stood. I know what you were capable of, and I won't let you hide it anymore. The room fell silent as the hearing adjourned. Emily stepped outside into the late afternoon sun, German Shepherd beside her. The air felt different, lighter. Maddox met her outside. He said little, simply handing her a manila envelope. Whistleblower protections are in place, he said. The press will pick it up by morning. June is safe. You did good, Emily nodded. She deserves her life back. You all do. That night, Emily drove home with German Shepherd in the passenger seat, his head resting against the window, eyes half closed. Soft folk music played on the radio. The sun dipped below the trees. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was being followed. She made dinner. Nothing fancy. Grilled cheese and tomato soup. German Shepherd sat on his usual mat near the table. Halfway through eating, she looked at him and smiled. Think we'll ever get used to normal again? He wagged his tail. Once, 2 weeks later, the headlines broke. Illegal human experiments tied to Rose Hill facility. Retired nurse and K-9 expose hidden medical program. Where is Ellis Quaid? No one had seen him since the hearing, but the damage was done. Investigations widened. Other facilities were named. Other victims began to surface, some still alive, most still forgotten. June became the face of a quiet movement. Anonymous interviews blurred her features, but her voice, stronger now, reached people. Emily declined most interviews. She didn't want fame. She wanted closure. One evening, June called. I remembered something else, she said. Emily leaned against the kitchen counter, phone in one hand, German Shepherd's bowl in the other. What is it? There was a phrase they said before every session. Quaid would whisper it before the lights went on. Emily waited. He'd say, You'll forget who you are before the world? Remembers what we did. Emily closed her eyes. Not anymore, she said. The world remembers. Now, 3 months passed, Emily returned to nursing at a small community clinic. Nothing secret, nothing hidden, just people who needed care, and someone who cared enough to see them. German Shepherd came to work with her twice a week. The patients adored him. On his off days, he slept more, walked less, but he still barked when something felt wrong. She trusted him more than any protocol. One evening, after locking up the clinic, Emily sat with German Shepherd on the back steps. The sky above was orange and fading, the kind of summer twilight that made everything feel possible again. She scratched behind his ears. You saved lives, German Shepherd, more than you'll ever know. He leaned into her hand, letting out a soft, contented huff. Funny, she whispered softly, how the world thought you were retired. But you never really stopped working, did you? She gazed up at the stars. Some heroes wear uniforms, others wear fur. Thank you so much for following this story through every twist, every secret, and every howl in the night. It's been an emotional journey, a reminder that truth doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just barks, quietly waiting for someone to listen. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if German Shepherd had barked at a locked door and no one else believed him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe in stories that honor animal heroes, justice, and the people who refuse to look away, please share this story with someone who needs it. From all of us, thank you.